Former White House press secretary and the newest MSNBC host, Jen Psaki, is here with us now. Jen, congratulations on the new show. We can't wait for Sunday at noon.
Thank you, Andrea.
It's so exciting. And you're both an analyst and you're an insider. So what are you trying to communicate? What's your goal for your new show?
Well, I've thought a lot about what media I watch. When I watch Andrea Mitchell, I know you're going to tell me about the ICC criminal court and what it means. I'm going to learn something from watching your show. So I want people to watch the show and learn something about an issue they've heard about or a person. And I spent some time with Governor Gretchen Whitmer. She's one of my first guests. I spent some time with New York City Mayor Eric Adams. We'll also have a piece with him. And I hope people come away knowing something they didn't know before.
And we heard from Governor Whitmer about the abortion issue. Talk to me about that and where she comes down.
Well, Governor Whitmer has been an outspoken advocate on behalf of abortion access, and she has been working to make that the law of the land in Michigan, where there needed to be some updating. What I was referencing there in that clip is the fact that she was one of 14 governors who sent a letter to Walgreens, which has announced that they are no longer going to be providing the abortion pill in 21 states. She wants clarification on that. What power do they actually have? She hasn't received anything back from Walgreens yet, but the question is, what can governors actually do who are abortion advocates if businesses like Walgreens are doing that? And also as we await on the outcome of this Texas court case where they may outlaw mifepristone, which is a key component of the abortion pill. She didn't know what that they are going to be able to do. It's very limited, and this is why this is such a case to watch.
Well, California has already taken steps. They took some $45 billion contracts away from Walgreens. They did,
and I asked her about that, and she said that they have different contracting with Walgreens, and so it works a little bit differently there in Michigan. They don't have the same power to kind of cut off those contracts like Governor Newsom has done. But I think it will be interesting to watch what do governors like Governor Whitmer, others who have been very outspoken about abortion access, do in the wake of this ruling on the Texas court case.
Now, there is every indication that the president is going to announce his re-election bid. First Lady said in Africa, you know, how many times does he have to tell you? He says he intends to run. There are legal reasons not to declare it, legal political reasons, filings, campaign fundraising, and all the rest. But what do you think in the way he's positioning himself? And should he do it sooner or later compared to the way Donald Trump is?
Well, he's been pretty clear, as you said, Andrea, that he has every intention of running. Dr. Biden, who's his probably most important advisor, essentially said that. There is a technical thing here, which is the end of the fundraising quarter. This is just my bet here. The end of March is the end of the first quarter of fundraising. You get through that. If it's April 1st or after, you start a new fundraising quarter. That's, I'm sure, on their minds. Once you announce you're running for president, as president, you have to pay for political travel in a different way. And at the same time, he has this dynamic of all of these declared and potential Republican candidates kind of fighting it out amongst each other. So for him, let that happen. And if you're in the White House right now, you think, let's wait for the right moment for him to announce.
And in fact, most recently, the Senate Republicans uprated Ron DeSantis, a likely, challenger to Donald Trump. And this is what you asked Governor Whitmer about that.
I did. I asked her, Ron DeSantis made several comments that over the course, well, actually, in a questionnaire to Tucker Carlson, he made these comments where he called he called it a territorial dispute, which, by the way, is what Putin calls it. And what Governor Whitmer said is that's echoing Kremlin talking points.
Let's take a look at that.
So another potential candidate, I guess I'll call him, a fellow governor, Ron DeSantis, recently made some comments, or actually he made clear this week, I should say, that supporting Ukraine is not of vital national interest to the United States. What do you say to that?
I am not an expert on geopolitics, but I will say this. I think it's really dangerous when politicians are using language that is coming out of the Kremlin. There's no question that calling it a territorial dispute is to undermine and downplay the Russian invasion, the illegal Russian invasion of Ukraine. And a state that has such a robust Ukrainian population, it is offensive, maddening, and I think it's really dangerous for our national security.
She may not be a geopolitical expert, but she framed it so accurately in contrast to what Donald Trump has said, what Donald DeSantis has said, and some House Republicans.
Right, and as a fellow national security nerd, you and I here, I'll count myself as that. I asked her about whether people are talking about this issue in Michigan, and she said yes. There's a large Ukrainian population. People have pride in the role that the United States has played. So when we think this is only a conversation happening about funding in Washington, it's not. It's larger than that, about values.
In a number of Rust Belt states.
Absolutely.
And Midwestern states, I should say. Illinois, I most recently was visiting Ukrainian Village in Chicago. Well, let's talk about also the larger question of Russia, China. President Xi Jinping is going now for an unusual visit, this first since the invasion, to Moscow as a peacemaker. It's remarkable.
Well, so he says.
I mean,
so
that's
he says,
the way.
Yes.
The quotes, the air quotes, were around that, and the irony in my voice, I hope. But that's what he's trying to do. He's just brokered a deal. We don't know if it'll hold up, between Iran and the Saudis, which could lead to the end of the terrible civil war in Yemen. So he'll go, and he will not pressure Russia to withdraw from what he's taken, but he'll pressure Russia and make it look like they're ready to negotiate, and Zelensky isn't. And that would undermine the U.S. position and the Allied position. And you've got a war-weary Europe and also the global South that he's appealing to.
Right. I mean, if you're President Xi, who was just elected to a third term, he's going to be president for as long as he wants to be at this point in time. He's quite a lot of power. He's trying to position himself on the international stage. He's been walking this tricky tightrope since the beginning of the invasion, where he has not said a lot publicly at all to condemn Putin. There has been concerns for some time about what kind of support, military support, is being provided to Russia by Xi. But yes, you can't, though, have a deal or a negotiation, as you know, Andrea, from covering this for so long, without both sides. And so what I expect U.S. officials, my former colleagues, are going to be calling out, and European officials, is that you can't negotiate with just Putin. You have to negotiate with also Zelensky and the Ukrainians. Otherwise, it's not a negotiation. And that's the important point here.
Jen Psaki, I mean, again, you prove just in this segment, you've covered campaigns, you've run campaigns, I should say, from the inside. You've been the State Department spokesperson and the White House press secretary. So you know it all, the politics, the geopolitics. And this is so exciting. It's exactly what we want on Sundays.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to going deep on all of these issues. And I think people actually want to know more and care about knowing more about everything happening.
And the people behind the public
and the people
personas
behind all of these issues. Exactly.
That's exactly what I want on Sunday. And you can watch Inside with Jen Psaki every Sunday starting this weekend at noon Eastern, right here on MSNBC and streaming on Peacock.